Good evening, everyone. I want to start by telling you something that might sound a little harsh, but it's the most important truth I've learned on my journey to success. You must force yourself. You see, we often wait for motivation to strike. We wait for the perfect conditions, and we wait for life to give us a sign that it's time to take action. But I'm here to tell you that motivation is overrated. It's an illusion, a fleeting feeling that will come and go. What really matters is discipline. We all have moments in life where we wake up and the last thing we feel like doing is getting out of bed. The bed is warm, the day is uncertain, and sometimes the weight of what we have to do just feels too heavy. It's in those moments that we start bargaining with ourselves. Maybe tomorrow will be a better day. Maybe I'll have more energy then. Maybe I'll feel more motivated. But let me tell you something, motivation is fleeting. It's like the wind. It comes and goes, unpredictable and unreliable. If you wait for motivation to get you moving, you'll be waiting forever. Motivation is great when it comes, but relying on it as the engine of your success is like trying to drive a car without gas. You need fuel. You need discipline. The key to achieving anything in life, whether it's in business, relationships, health, or personal development, is discipline. The ability to keep going even when motivation runs dry. Discipline is what gets you out of bed when you'd rather stay under the covers. It's what makes you show up day after day, putting in the work, even when you're exhausted, even when you don't feel like it, even when the road ahead seems long and uncertain. I'll be honest with you, I've faced days where I didn't want to push through, days when everything in me wanted to give up, but I didn't, and let me tell you why. Because I understood that discipline was the muscle I needed to strengthen, not motivation. Discipline is what you can rely on when everything else fails. I remember a time in my life when I had little to nothing. I didn't have the connections, the financial resources, or the confidence I needed to succeed. But I knew one thing, if I kept showing up, if I kept putting in the effort every single day, eventually I would get somewhere. You see, motivation is external, it's a feeling, and feelings are fleeting. But discipline is internal, it's a decision. And when you make that decision to rely on your discipline, that's when the magic happens. I didn't always feel motivated to work 12-hour days, to make phone calls, to hustle, to try again when I failed, but I did it. And over time, those small, seemingly insignificant actions built up into something powerful. It wasn't because I was motivated every day. It was because I committed to discipline. I decided that the goal was bigger than the temporary discomfort. Here's the thing. If you only act when you feel motivated, you'll never make consistent progress. Success doesn't come from moments of inspiration. It comes from the moments when you don't feel like doing the work but choose to do it anyway. It's in the moments when you feel tired, when life throws challenges your way, and when everything inside you says to stop, that's when discipline steps in. It's what keeps you going even when the world doesn't seem to be supporting you. It's the fuel you need when the motivation is nowhere to be found. One of the most powerful habits I've developed over the years is doing what needs to be done whether I feel like it or not. When I made that shift, my life changed. I was no longer waiting for that burst of motivation to come. Instead, I started focusing on building habits, routines, and systems that didn't rely on how I felt. That's the game changer. When you stop waiting for motivation to show up, you take control of your future. Think about the things you've accomplished in your life. I bet some of them didn't feel exciting in the moment. Maybe they were difficult. Maybe they took longer than expected. Maybe they even felt tedious at times. But you did them anyway. And that's where the growth happens. It's not the big, flashy moments that lead to lasting success. It's the small, daily choices to show up, to keep going, and to keep pushing forward even when the excitement fades. So ask yourself, what would your life look like if you stopped waiting for motivation and started relying on your discipline? What could you achieve if you decided that your commitment to success was bigger than any temporary discomfort or lack of motivation? The moment you realize that you don't need to feel motivated to take action, that's when you step into a new level of control. That's when the game changes and you start to see results that last. Discipline, not motivation, is what will carry you through the long days, the setbacks, and the obstacles. It's the ability to keep moving forward even when the excitement wears off. And that's the secret to success. So the next time you're tempted to wait for the perfect moment, remember, discipline is the true key to making progress and achieving greatness one small, deliberate step at a time. Resistance is something that every one of us faces. It's a force that works against our goals, our dreams, and our ambitions. It doesn't matter who you are or how successful you've been in the past. Resistance is always there, waiting for you. It shows up when you're about to make progress and tries to convince you to stop. It's that voice in your head telling you to relax, telling you to take a break, telling you that you've worked hard enough and you deserve to rest. But here's the truth, resistance is not your friend. I've encountered resistance at every stage of my journey. When I first started, I wanted to give up so many times. I wanted to throw in the towel. The temptation to quit was real. There were moments when I felt like I was getting nowhere, no matter how hard I worked. But here's what I learned. Resistance doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It means you're on the right one. It's a sign that you're about to break through. Every time I felt resistance, it was a signal that I was getting closer to where I needed to be. But only if I kept pushing forward. In those moments when the resistance feels strongest, that's when you have to dig in your heels. You have to fight harder than ever before, because let me tell you something about resistance. It's not going to go away on its own. You can't wait for it to disappear. You have to face it head on, and that's where the growth happens. If you want to be great, you have to learn to fight through resistance, not run away from it. You have to learn that it's part of the process. Every person who has ever achieved something significant has had to fight through it. It's never easy. It's never a smooth path. But that's what makes the journey worth it. Think about the way a muscle grows. It grows through resistance. When you lift weights, your muscles are tearing and breaking down only to rebuild stronger than before. The same thing happens with your personal growth. You grow through resistance. The more you push against it, the more you expand. Every time you face resistance and choose to keep going, you're building mental, emotional, and physical strength. You're getting better. You're becoming someone who doesn't back down no matter what life throws at you. I've seen people give up right before they were about to break through. They were so close to the success they desired, but the resistance became too much and they quit. And I get it. Resistance is hard. It can feel overwhelming. But here's something I need you to understand. The moment you decide to push through resistance is the moment you unlock your full potential. It's like breaking through a barrier. On the other side of that resistance is the version of yourself who can accomplish the impossible. But you'll never know that version of you unless you push through. Let me tell you about a time in my life when resistance almost made me quit. It was early on, and I was doing everything I could to build my business. I was working long hours, sacrificing sleep, and putting everything I had into my vision, but the results weren't coming. I was putting in the work, and yet the progress felt so slow. I wanted to give up. I thought, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. But then I remembered that every successful person I admired had faced this same resistance. They didn't let it stop them. They used it as fuel. So instead of backing down, I pushed through. And that's when everything began to shift. The resistance that had been holding me back suddenly became my motivator. I realized that the struggle wasn't a sign of failure. It was a sign that I was on the verge of something great. And as I continued to push, I started to see the progress I had been working for. The breakthrough came when I refused to stop. The resistance you face is a test. It's testing your commitment. It's testing your resolve. It's testing your belief in yourself. And every time you push through, you become stronger, more resilient, and more capable. The person you're becoming on the other side of that resistance is a version of yourself who is not only successful, but unshakable. Remember this, resistance is not a roadblock, it's a stepping stone. It's a necessary part of the process. You cannot grow without it. The more you push through, the more you expand. And when you break through that resistance, when you look back and see how far you've come, you'll realize that the challenges you faced were not obstacles. They were opportunities for you to evolve, to become more than you were yesterday. The next time resistance shows up, and it will show up, Don't fight it. Don't shy away from it. Embrace it. Know that it's part of the journey, part of your transformation. When you push through resistance, you're not just getting closer to your goals, you're becoming the person you need to be to achieve them. So stand firm, keep going, and know that every ounce of resistance you face is bringing you one step closer to your ultimate breakthrough. Consistency is one of the most powerful principles you can master in your journey to success. It's easy to get caught up in the idea of making big, bold moves, and we often think that success comes from a single, groundbreaking effort. But the truth is, success is built in the small, everyday actions you take consistently over time. The person who succeeds isn't the one who has the best idea or the most talent. They're the ones who show up every single day putting in the effort, no matter how small the steps might seem. I learned this lesson early on. When I first started, I had grand dreams, big goals, and a lot of ambition. But I also faced a reality check. I realized that it wasn't enough to just have big dreams. I had to put in the work every single day. There were no shortcuts. There were no days off. If I truly wanted to reach my goals, I had to commit to the daily grind, even when things felt slow or unexciting. In the beginning, I didn't see immediate results. In fact, there were days when I thought, why am I even doing this? I'm putting in all this effort and I'm not seeing any rewards. It was tempting to get discouraged and stop. But I kept going, and something incredible happened. Those small daily actions began to add up. The things that seemed insignificant started to compound, and before I knew it, the momentum was building. I realized that consistency wasn't just about doing something every day. It was about doing it with a sense of purpose, with the belief that the effort would pay off, even when the results weren't immediately visible. Think about this for a moment. How many people you know are really, truly consistent? It's rare, isn't it? People often start strong, filled with enthusiasm and excitement, but then they hit a rough patch and suddenly they're no longer showing up. They give up after a few setbacks or when they don't see the results they expected. But the ones who succeed are the ones who keep showing up even when it feels like nothing is happening. They push through the frustration, the doubt, and the disappointment and keep putting in the effort. That's what separates the successful from the unsuccessful. Let me tell you about a time when I almost gave up on consistency. When I first began building my business, there were days when it felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. I wasn't seeing the progress I thought I should, and I had moments of doubt. But I realized that this was just part of the process. Success wasn't going to happen overnight, and it wasn't going to be the result of a single big move. It was going to be the product of showing up every day, doing the work, even when I didn't feel like it. So I decided to commit to the process, and that meant consistently doing the small things that would eventually lead to something bigger. Over time, those small actions began to compound. I began to see things I hadn't noticed before. The opportunities, the relationships, the lessons learned. I realized that consistency is a multiplier. When you show up every day, you build momentum. And momentum is powerful. It propels you forward, even on the days when you feel exhausted or discouraged. What seemed impossible at first started to feel inevitable. Another thing I learned about consistency is that it's not about perfection. It's about doing something every day, even if it's not perfect. I didn't always get everything right, and there were plenty of mistakes along the way, but I kept going. The key is to keep moving, even if it's imperfect. It's easy to get stuck in the mindset of wanting everything to be perfect before you take action. But that's a trap. Perfection doesn't exist. Consistency, however, does. And it's what gets you closer to your goals, step by step, day by day. Here's the truth. It's the consistent effort over time that creates success, not big moments of inspiration. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be persistent. Every day, you're putting in the effort, even when no one is watching, even when you don't see immediate results, but eventually that consistent effort will turn into something big. It might take longer than you expect, but the compounding effect of consistent actions will eventually lead you to success. The best way to think about consistency is like planting seeds. At first, you see nothing. You water, you nurture, you keep going, and then one day, you start to see a sprout. But it didn't happen overnight. It happened because of the small, consistent actions you took every day. Over time, that little sprout grows into something much bigger. Success is exactly like that. It's the result of showing up every day, consistently doing the work, and trusting that your efforts will bear fruit. So here's the challenge. Stop waiting for the big moment to make your move. Instead, focus on the small actions, the daily steps, and the consistent effort that will lead to lasting success. Whether it's in your career, your relationships, or your health, consistency is the key. It's the difference between those who dream about success and those who achieve it. The person who consistently puts in the work, no matter how small or unexciting it may seem in the moment, will always come out ahead. Keep showing up. Keep doing the work. Because success isn't a one-time event. It's the result of consistent effort over time. And that's how you turn your dreams into reality. Growth only happens outside of your comfort zone. I know you've probably heard this before, but let me break it down for you in a way that sticks. Comfort zones are like mental prisons. They keep you safe, but they also keep you stagnant. They give you a sense of security and ease, but at the cost of limiting your potential. The truth is, the moment you step out of that comfort zone, you are no longer the same person you were before. You've unlocked a version of yourself that you didn't even know existed. It's like discovering a hidden treasure buried within you. A treasure that can only be uncovered when you have the courage to step into the unknown. I'll tell you a story about a time when I had to step outside of my comfort zone. Early in my career, I was doing what most people do. I was trying to play it safe. I stayed in my familiar routines, stuck with what I knew, and avoided risks. I convinced myself that as long as I stayed in my comfort zone, I'd be fine. But the problem was staying in that zone wasn't helping me grow. It wasn't helping me reach the next level. So I had a choice: stay comfortable or step into discomfort and face the fear of the unknown. I'll be honest, I was scared. The idea of stepping into new territory terrified me. There was so much I didn't know, so many things I had never tried. But I realized something. Growth never happens in the comfort zone. All the things I wanted, success, freedom, impact, were on the other side of that fear. I had to choose whether I would let fear hold me back or whether I would use it as fuel to push forward. I made the decision to take the leap. I pushed myself out of my comfort zone and started doing things I'd never done before. I started making connections with people I didn't know, going after opportunities that scared me, and trying things that felt overwhelming. And you know what? It wasn't easy. In fact, it was uncomfortable as hell. But each time I stepped into that discomfort, something amazing happened. I grew. Every challenge, every moment of fear, every failure, it all contributed to my personal development. I became someone stronger, more capable, and more resilient. Now, I'm not saying that discomfort is easy to embrace. Trust me, I've been there. It's not always smooth sailing. But here's the thing. The discomfort you feel is a sign that you are expanding. It's a sign that you are doing something new, something bold. The discomfort is a signal that you are on the verge of a breakthrough. The things that are uncomfortable now will eventually become second nature if you keep pushing through. It's the only way to evolve into the person who can handle the level of success you're striving for. Think about it. The person you are today has been shaped by every decision you've made, every challenge you've faced, and every step you've taken, even the uncomfortable ones. You can't be the person you want to become if you're too afraid to leave your comfort zone. The growth you're looking for, the opportunities you're chasing, and the success you desire are all just outside that comfort zone. And you'll never know what you're capable of until you step beyond it. Let's talk about fear for a moment, because fear is what keeps so many people stuck. Fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of rejection. These are the things that hold us back from stepping outside our comfort zones. I've felt those fears too, many times. But I've learned something crucial. Fear is not a sign to stop, it's a sign to go. When you feel that fear, it means you're on the edge of something great. It's a signal that you're about to do something that will stretch you and force you to grow. Instead of running from fear, lean into it. When I was first starting out, I was afraid of failure. I was afraid of making mistakes and looking stupid. I worried that I wasn't good enough to succeed, but guess what? I made plenty of mistakes. I stumbled, I failed, and each time I learned. Failure wasn't the end. It was just a lesson on the road to success. If you're not failing, if you're not taking risks and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, you're not growing. You're not evolving, and you're not getting closer to the success you desire. Every time you push yourself to do something that makes you uncomfortable, you're strengthening your ability to handle even bigger challenges in the future. That's how growth works. It's cumulative. Each step you take outside of your comfort zone builds on the last one, creating a foundation for even greater success. So the more you push, the more you grow, and the more you're able to handle the next level of your journey. And here's a secret that most people miss. Growth doesn't just happen in the big moments. It happens in the small, everyday actions. You don't have to do something massive every day to see growth. It's the consistent small steps that stretch you and challenge you. It's the times when you choose to show up even when you're scared, when you speak up even when you're nervous, when you take action even when you don't feel ready. That's when the real growth happens. I challenge you to think about the areas of your life where you're playing it safe. Where are you holding back because you're comfortable? Where are you avoiding discomfort, even though you know that's where the growth is? Now imagine what could happen if you stepped outside of that comfort zone, even just a little bit every day. What could you achieve? What new skills could you develop? What new opportunities could open up? You won't know until you make the choice to step outside that zone and embrace the discomfort that comes with it. Because here's the undeniable truth. If you want to become the person you're meant to be, you have to be willing to step outside of who you've been. It's only when you leave your comfort zone behind that you truly discover what you're capable of. And trust me, it's more than you could ever imagine.